now everything or nothing. Meanwhile, we keep escalating without having any diplomatic out. It's just there has to be a limit to how far we can push the Russians, how they're engaging in this direct strikes, getting so deeply involved in attacking Russia, and still being so confident that they simply want to retaliate because that they're so deterred and worried. I mean, it seems it's starting to seem more and more crazy to me, though. This is
well, Glenn, I think we need to be frank about this. Who are the people with their backs to the wall? They're in Berlin, Paris, London, and Washington. The old regime is dying. The globalists have lost. The population everywhere doesn't want them. And they're operating on borrowed time. So this is sort of a last act of defiance. This is not something significant that will compel the Russians to stop or halt in any way. On the contrary, this is going to trigger greater intensity and greater aggressiveness on the Russian side than we have seen to date. That is pretty clear to me. But will it trigger a nuclear response? No, not at this point. But it's useful for everyone to understand what I said before. If every existing, Storm Shadow missile, Scalpel missile, ATACMS, MLRS, multiple launch rocket systems, if they were all somehow or another concentrated and shot at once, yes, that could precipitate the nuclear response. I don't see that happening because I just don't think we have enough missiles to go around to make a dent. It's really kind of strange. We keep insisting that the Russians are this imminent threat, that if Ukraine can't join NATO at some point, the world will end and everything will be lost. But there's no evidence for that because the Russians don't really want to go any further west. As I've said over and over and over again to people, the Russians don't really want to govern Ukrainians. They recognize that the Ukrainians should govern themselves. They simply want that state to be neutral and not a threat to Russia, which seems eminently reasonable to me. If I, as an American, saw something similar happening in Mexico, I don't think that we would have been nearly as restrained as the Russians have been. And we would demand a similar outcome. Get all the foreign forces out and neutralize yourself. If you don't do that, we'll annihilate you. And I think we would do so without hesitation. So this is all nonsense, what's happening right now. Again, it's a last desperate attempt to signal some sort of capability that really isn't there, to breathe life into the comatose body of Ukraine. Ukraine is dead. I think we need to, for the sake of the few people that remain in that country, we need to end this as quickly as possible.